Before we get started, I just want to point out the episode description on the Big Finish website of Torchwood Widdershins. One night ago, Ian tried to raise the devil, etc., and now, many years later, Ian's trying to work out what really happened that night. Did Torchwood ruin his life? And if I know anything about Torchwood, it's that the answer to that question will definitely be yes. Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Mr. TARDIS, making my way through the Big Finish back catalogue of 2024 and still trying to recover from this cold. Today we're looking at Torchwood Widdershins, which, much like the previous Torchwood review of The Hollow Choir, is very much a supernaturally inspired story. Outside the government, beyond the police, and folklore, which I love. I do love Torchwood exploring not just extraterrestrial stuff, but something with a more mythological bent to it. Torchwood Widdershins comes from Guy Adams, and if you don't know, Widdershins is a Scottish term which means that you walk anti-clockwise around something. In this case, for some sort of ceremony, or walking Widdershins around some sort of stone circle, for example. Superstition of it is that walking anti-clockwise is like you're walking against the sun, you're walking against the natural order. And the inciting incident of Torchwood Widdershins is that Ian, played by Sereth Flynn, walked Widdershins around a stone circle in the Welsh village of Llandith, and then as soon as he did that, there was some sort of alien invasion, people were kidnapped and taken away and experimented on, and basically he and his family and multiple people in Llandith lost 3 days of their lives. No recollection of what happened, it's just this really strange period in Llandith which people just don't like to talk about. Ian is dealing with a lot of unprocessed trauma, so at the request of his doctor/therapist, what he's done, and this is the narrative conceit of Widdershins, he's recording his own low-budget audio drama with his mum and his dad, played by Catherine Powell and Charles Dale respectively, where they'll talk through the story of that night years ago when he walked Widdershins and the fallout from that. They'll even do sound effects and narration and even voices, so that Ian can finally process the trauma of that night and remember what happened. And of course, it involves bloody Torchwood.
I wanted to walk around the churchyard the other way. But those size 2 shoes seemed like nuclear weapons now. They seemed so powerful, I developed a strain from trying to walk softly. But I had to try it, didn't I? I had to see if it would work. And eventually, I was running. Faster, faster, faster! And all I got to show for it was a pair of bruised knees. And meeting them.
Are you okay, kid? Are we gonna do them?
Yeah, how do imaginary friends sound? Maybe one of them's a mouse and the other's a unicorn.
The woman. She feels American.
You're not Gillian Anderson, love.
We're Torchwood.
We deal with things like this.
Me?
What happened to the village? Let me help you up. You took quite a tumble.
Probably not the worst thing to happen to him lately.
It's hard enough without you sniping in character too.
Please!
Let me help you up, old chap.
Were you running from someone?
No, No, it was nothing.
You live here, though, yes?
Yes.
You were part of the... Do you mind?
Just checking him. Picking up lots of traumatic radiation.
Traumatic radiation? I don't remember anything about that.
I'm just saying what he tells me to say. Isn't that what I'm supposed to do?
Guy Adams, I don't think, has a spotless track record as a writer for Big Finish, but what I do love about some of his previous works, whether it be Ice Heist or The Dreams of Avarice or the Torchwood two-parter Double from the previous year, is that he really commits to different genre conventions. Whether it's the sci-fi bank heist of Ice Heist with the Fourth Doctor, or the English noir gritty crime drama in Double, he takes these traditional tropes and these traditional formats and really has fun experimenting with them. And also with stories like The Dreams of Avarice and Double, he deals with characters who are dealing with a lot of unprocessed mental health trauma. In the case of Double, that followed Roberta Craven, played by Louise Jameson, who was this neurodivergent detective. And in Widdershins, it seems like that's the allegory that it's going for in regards to Ian trying to process this untalked about trauma or untalked about issues within the household. In the bonus interviews, Guy Adams himself opens up about what it feels like to be an outsider. He's a neurodivergent person himself, and, quote, he calls himself a neurodivergent weird boy. So I think that's the allegory that Widdershins is going for here. We've got a character like Ian, who is the antisocial, weird black sheep of the family who went through a traumatic event as a teenager. And then not just his family, but apparently just the whole community of Llandeth just brushed that under the carpet, and he wants to try and tackle it because it's holding him back into adulthood. It reminded me a bit of the Torchwood Series 1 story, Random Shoes, which was written by Jaquetta May, which followed this lad called Eugene, who was killed in a hit and run, but before he died, he swallowed an alien eye, which caused him to follow the aftermath of him dying with Gwen. I.e., Torchwood on the outskirts of this really pivotal moment of his life. Well, for Eugene, it's the apex, it's the end of his life, and going through your family in an unconventional way to take stock of the situation. There's quite a few characters, including Torchwood agents, but there's only 3 actors. You've got Ian, Mum and Dad, and they don't even have final names in the final version as far as I can remember. Dad definitely doesn't. Mum might, I can't record off the top of my head, and that results in them giving the characters voices. I like the Mum's detail where she has to play one of the Torchwood agents, and she's like, I can imagine them being American, so it's this old Welsh woman putting on an American accent. It's just like fun little details like that. I think the format of this guerrilla audio drama does have some limits. Like, I love the audio recording of the low quality piano that plays the Torchwood theme at the beginning and end of the episode, but then you've got Mum and Dad who are filling in these roles that they weren't there for, so how do they know the dialogue? How do they know what's going on? Who's doing the sound effects? If you want perfect clarity on the format of this audio drama, you might not get it in Widdershins. However, I do think the story and the characters and the themes that it's going for does supersede that. Like, it was only a mild distraction after the fact. It didn't really detract from listening to Widdershins. And that's because the character work here is just really solid. Ian is a sympathetic protagonist. The mum is nervous but supportive, and the dad is glib and dismissive, but then we learn over the course of the story that he does care. You know, the rough exterior, working class, old-fashioned dad, but then he reveals later on that he really cares. It's a tale as old as time, but damn, it does work. It works on me, at least. I liked that reveal in this story. And while I think the explicit intention of the story is to view it from the perspective of a neurodivergent weird boy from the outside, I think the metaphor is strong and flexible enough to apply to other subject matter, like, you know, unresolved family trauma, like a family member dying and then everyone just acts like normal, or someone surviving abuse and then trying to move on from that and process it years later because it wasn't dealt with at the time. You know, it's really interesting adult subject matter, and I think that Guy Adams very smartly uses that format of the audio recording at home to make it more personal and a bit more palatable. And interestingly, Widdershins uses that voice actor podcast format in order to once again duck out of having to recast Captain Jack Harkness in the Torchwood universe at this point in time. At least that was my interpretation from near the end of the story. I can't really get into spoilers. There's strong narration, some really vivid imagery as well, like this cover art of these 2 faceless people. That becomes quite literal early on in the story. I thought it was really effective. And yeah, Widdershins is just a really solid Torchwood release. If you're new to the Torchwood range or you haven't been listening to audio dramas that much, I wouldn't open with Widdershins. I would maybe put this on the back burner because, like I said, it is experimental with its format. So, you know, I wouldn't go to my mum or my wife or go, oh, you have to listen to this audio drama and then have them listen to Widdershins. I don't always vibe with Guy Adams, but he is a really creative writer and I do admire that about him. And Widdershins is just testament to that as well. So yeah, thank you so much for watching my review of Torchwood Widdershins. Let me know in the comment section below if you've listened to this story. If not, that's fine. Leave a comment anyway for the YouTube algorithm. I don't know. I'll see you folks next time.